What is up, guys? It's Dan the Man, and today I'm back with another over the board tournament I played, but this time I'm back in Georgia because of Thanksgiving break. So I made it back to from UF. It was about a 6 hour drive, but I made it back home. And for the break, I was wanting to get back into my comfort zone and play some local tournaments against familiar people. And there was a tournament, pretty big tournament, about 100 people. It was called the Georgia Amateur and Open Championship, something along those lines. And it's kind of like a Thad Rogers tournament with pretty big prizes and cash and a lot of people, but the sections are a little bit different. There is an open section, which is 1,600 and above, and an amateur section, which is 1,600, below 1,600. And since there aren't that many sections, there's only two, the ratings you can get paired against are going to be a bit more spread out, more random. So it's harder to predict who you're going to play. And based on tournament pairing algorithms, it's typically higher rated people are paired against lower rated people. And then as the tournament progresses, the ratings sort of converge to be more close to each other. So I'm paired against a 1,600 by the name of Sarah Peter, who I don't really know her. And it's because she's from Alabama. I looked at her USCF profile. Now, you might expect the game to be easy for me because she's, after all, 300 points lower rated, but she definitely gave the game a challenge for me. It was a very dynamic game, very crazy, and guys are just going to have to see how the game went. So, for the first game, I was playing in the 2-day section, so the time control was 60 minutes. The other games are 90 minutes with a 30-second delay. This game was 60-10 with a 10-second delay. So let's just go ahead and jump in here. So I'm playing with the white pieces, and we get e4, as I always play, e6, d4, d5. We have a French defense, knight c3, bishop to b4. This is the winnower variation. It's one of my least favorite lines because the knight is pinned and it can lead to doubled pawns, but it's still perfectly fine. I play the delayed exchange, which is a move. I think e5 is more common, but this is also fine. She takes back, knight f3, knight f6, bishop d3, castle, castle. The opening is going flawlessly here. Bishop g4, h3, bishop to h5, and I go rook e1. So as you can see, all we're doing is just developing our pieces, centralizing. Nothing really too exciting is happening just yet. I was waiting for her to double my pawns at any moment by trading the knight for the bishop. Trading the bishop for the knight. But she probably likes having the bishop pair, so she doesn't choose to do that. And I could always break the pin with bishop to d2, but I don't really see any urgency in doing that. So for now, we're just developing our pieces to the middle. So after rook e8, here I trade on e8, and after queen takes e8, I see a tactic or a moment to try to win a pawn. And if you notice, if I manage to kick the knight on f6 away, I can take on d5. So that was my idea I had in mind. And that's why I played g4, gaining tempo on the bishop. The bishop moved to g6, and then I continue with my idea of playing g5. And it might look a bit dangerous, pushing pawns in front of my king, but there's no concrete evidence that I'm getting mated. It might be worse in the long term, but as of the present, there's no attack on my king, and this isn't really scary for the time being. So I wasn't worried about getting checkmated because how is black going to checkmate me anytime soon, right? So I play g5. Now, of course, if the knight moves, the whole point was to take on d5. So seeing that, Sarah Peter takes on c3 first, getting rid of the knight. And I have to take the knight on f6, because if I don't take the knight on f6, then she can just hop into e4, and now I'm going to have some weaknesses in my position. So that's why the whole point is to take the knight on f6 as well. And now we had a little desperado here. Her bishop's hanging, so she has to stop. She has to save it. She plays the move bishop to b4, and I thought that was a bit weird because I can attack it again with c3. And here she went bishop d6, and now I play f takes g7, just taking a pawn towards the king. And it's actually better for black not to take, because there's this concept in chess called an umbrella pawn. An umbrella pawn is basically where the pawn of the opposite color stands in front of your king, so the pieces of the opposite color can't attack it. So that pawn on g7 actually, in the long term, if I were to ever launch an attack, it would get in the way of my pieces, because the g pawn is in the way. If it was a black pawn on g7, I could, try to threaten to capture it, but I can't capture my own pawn. So the g7 pawn is an umbrella pawn, and black should just leave it alone. So she played bishop e4 here, which made sense at first. I think her idea was to try to trade the knight and maybe go queen e1 check after my queen would take back. But I don't let that happen. I play the move knight g5, and I'm hitting the bishop twice. And I'm also preparing to play queen h5 at some point and invade on the king side. And here she played the move knight d7, which was a really good move because she's developing. And if I were to launch an attack, if I were to play queen h5 here, which apparently is the best move, if I were to play queen h5, I felt that was a waste of time because she can just bring her knight over here. But the engine's weird. It says I can just plant my queen on h6, attacking the knight. And although black can defend the knight with bishop to e7, the engine evaluates this as being much better for white, probably because black has to be all defensive. But I didn't really see a point of going queen h5 because it would be immediately met by an attack. So, but, Stockfish is unique in its own ways. So here I play the move queen g4. I go one square short, and my idea was to attack the pawn on e4. I felt that was a better option. And if knight f6 were to be played, I played the move queen f5. And I'm still attacking the knight, but my queen is in a bit of a more centralized location. It has a bit more availability to move. And here, after queen f5, I had 32 minutes, and she's actually spending a considerable amount of time here. And she's only down to like 15 minutes. And this is no increment, this is delay, but I'm just letting you know that her time is getting dangerously low. Now, after queen f5, I'm starting to sort of invade her position a little bit. And here, I was expecting her to defend the knight with like the queen or the bishop. But here she played a move that surprised me a good bit because I explained it already. She played king takes g7, so she defends the knight with her king but gets rid of the umbrella pawn. So now her king is exposed on the g file. And I was pretty surprised to see this because you're just removing a pawn that is shielding your king from any attacks. But as I said, there's not really any concrete way for me to attack the king. Sure, I can bring my rook to the g file, but that's going to take some time. And while I do that, black can try to defend and bring their king back to safety. So in the immediate time being, there's no way I can reasonably attack the king. So in practice, it's fine, but fundamentally, you shouldn't be opening your king like that. So king takes g7 is still fine. And now I notice that she's threatening to play h6, which, if you look carefully, would trap my knight. My knight would have no squares to go to. So that's why in this position I played the move h4, which the engine doesn't like. The main point of h4 is that I'm just simply trying to vacate a square for my knight to run away to, with knight h3. And she did play h6 here. Now, first instinct is for me to just move the knight to h3. But if I were to do that, then I would just be going backwards. And the engine says it's a good move, but, it's not the best move. I found a bit of a clever move, in my opinion, even though the engine doesn't really like it. So after h6, I noticed that I can play the move, even though the engine is not a fan of it, I play the move bishop d2. And the main idea of this is that I'm developing the bishop off the back rank. My idea maybe can bring the king to h1 and then bring the rook to g1 and try to start an attack on the king since it's open on the g file. And if Sarah Peter wherever take my knight, I realize I can just win the knight back, because after queen takes g5 check, the king is forced away from defending the knight, and I would be up a pawn, and her king is exposed, and I would be totally winning. So she can't actually take the knight, okay? She can't actually take the knight. But her best move is actually to try to trade queens with queen c8. That's the engine's reply, because if I were to try to keep the queen on the rank to try to threaten the same idea, if I try to play like queen b5, then she can just invade with her own queen, and then I would be the one in trouble. So the queen trade is practically forced for me. So that's what she should have done, but she instead played the move queen c6, which is a seemingly normal-looking move, seemingly innocuous on what it's doing. I didn't really see much to it, but she's actually threatening something super, super discreet, to the point where I even missed it. I still thought that she can't take the knight on g5 because I would win the knight like usual. So I should have moved the knight back to be safe. And I actually thought I had blundered here, because after rook to e1, rook e1 is actually not a blunder. But then after she took the knight, I thought it was a blunder, and now I'll explain why I thought rook e1 was a blunder. After h takes g5, you might be wondering why I'm not winning like I was in the previous line where it was like +3. And the point of queen c6 is that after I take on g5, the king moved to f8. And I think you guys are seeing the issue. If I were to take the knight, she suddenly has bishop to h2 check, winning my queen. So the whole point of queen c6 was to threaten a discovered attack on my queen when it captures on f6. And that was a very, very sneaky idea, to the point where I even missed it. And here I thought I was losing, because I'm just down a piece. I realized I can't take the knight, and she just set me up with this trap. So after I thought rook e1, I just totally threw away my advantage, because she tricked me with this super, super, super sneaky queen to c6 move, which I did not see coming. So after king f8, I'm trying to frantically think, like, okay, how do I if I can't take the knight, how do I deal with being down a piece? Maybe I'll flag her. She's lower rated. Maybe I can swindle her. But the engine says this isn't winning for black, and it's in fact a draw. But I thought it was winning for black over the board, so I start to get nervous. So I try to continue the attack in some way. Notice, actually, if she can't go to h8, because I would take the knight with check, so just pointing that out. So she moved to a place where the knight can't be taken with check. So I play queen h6 check, and here the engine actually suggests the king to go back to g8, in which case I would go back to g5 and repeat with threefold repetition. But she probably thought she was winning, so she decided to keep going and move the king to e8. And I'm still down a piece. I still can't take the knight in f6 because of the same issue. And if I were to play queen h8 check, then she can play bishop f8, and she's defending herself, and she can get out of this mess. So I can't really rush into things. So I don't play the check. I'm not impatient. And I play the move bishop to g5, which is one of the only moves to stay equal. Otherwise, I'd be losing. The point of bishop g5 is it attacks the knight. I'm actually threatening to take the knight now, because either my queen or bishop can take, and the piece that takes will be defended by the other piece. So the knight is actually being threatened here. And it's just getting a piece closer to the king, and it's just an annoying move. So here, Sarah Peter should just play knight g4 or something, like the engine's suggesting. But here she plays bishop e7, which I thought was also a pretty logical move. And here I play queen h8 check. And here I thought that I would be recovering my knight. But surprisingly, the engine's crazy. It's saying that king d7 is the best move. Now you might be squinting at the screen saying, how is that best? Doesn't that just lose a rook for nothing? And I would say, yeah, you're right. Stockfish is just being itself. Stockfish is ludicrous. And it's saying that even though I'm up 3 points of material, black has this move queen to e6. And her queen's threatening to go to g4 and bother my king. And the engine's suggesting that let's just say I take on b7. Then the point of queen g4 is that after, if I go to h2, her bishop can come into d6. If I go to h1, she has queen f3, and then she has like this kind of move, and then she has a perpetual. And if I go to e2, it's mate. So she has some sort of perpetual here, which is insane. So after queen e6, the best move for me is rook e3 to try to block the check. But then the engine's getting really ridiculous. It's saying knight g4 is best. And if, let's say, I try to save the rook, then things get really weird after queen f5, threatening the f2 pawn. And if I were to go rook g2, then e3 wins for black. And if I take the, like this, then queen b1. Oh, and this is getting really, really crazy stuff. So that king d7 would never be played in a million years by a 1600, maybe by Magnus or someone of that caliber. But for 1600, or even me for that matter, I would play what she played, which is bishop to f8. And you naturally don't want to lose a rook, so I just gather my piece back. Queen takes f6, and I'm fine trading queens here because the e4 pawn is lost. I'm up a pawn already, and her pieces are not active. So now we just clean it up here. I'm up 2 pawns in this endgame. She's down a significant amount of time. And I just go on to, I have this nice tactic, bishop takes c7. The king can't take because I would take on e7. And then take on f7, and I would be up 4 pawns. So now we just clean things up here. I set a little trap. I play rook takes e7 check. King takes, and the point of that was to lure the king into a fork with bishop g5 check. And now we're just up a bishop. She didn't resign. She played a little bit on. But ultimately, this is an easy conversion. Just pushing the pawns up. And after a little while, I promote, and she resigned here because I would be mating her in the next few moves, and there's not anything left to be done here. So we win the first game of the tournament. I was a bit scared after the rook e1 blunder because I thought I had hung a piece against a 1600, but the engine actually said it was a totally fine move, and I unknowingly played good moves to not be losing. So that was a bit of a scare in the first game. If you take a look at the accuracy, I played pretty well at 92.7, and she played decently at 83. So she definitely had me on the edge of my seat, especially with the queen c6 resource. And yeah, we'll see you guys in round 2. Thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you think of the game or the video. And leave a comment and subscribe if you haven't already. And have a great rest of your day or night. Bye.